1 week since the Armory collection has come out, and I've just wanted to talk about a little bit of the sentiment, kind of my reflection on the past and everything like that. Just because I felt like as we're progressing deeper into Counter Strike 2, it's important to kind of talk about the community sentiment and document it as time goes on so we can see when Valve are actually doing a good job of turning it around and kind of the poor reception that was seen at launch. I want to see how and if that changes over time. So this is going to be one of the first videos addressing that, since it's actually been a little bit over a year since the Counter-Strike beta has come out. So let's start off with some of the most controversial aspects of this pass and everything that's been included with it. One of the main things that I saw about this pass was the fact that people felt as though it was a money grab, and it was solely a money grab only meant to, be profit for Valve. And while I understand that the first thing that you see when you load into the game is a pass that's, 15 or 16.99, I forget off the top of my head. Um, it's not as though that was the only thing that was in the update. There was plenty of other things in the update, such as map changes, network changes, and stuff meant to be improving the game. And if you take a second and look, at the Counter Strike blog, as I have up here, you're going to see that they've been updating the game for a couple times ever since the update has come out, the major update. So they did make some changes to maps like Ancient, Anubis, D2. They added Italy to competitive matchmaking and stuff like that. And I do think that a lot of this is going to be cool and going to be obviously better gameplay improvement wise. The game has felt a little bit snappier. It hasn't really felt great in terms of FPS, but I would rather lower consistent FPS that feels smoother than high FPS all the time with high frame times and stuff like that, because it's overall not going to result in as smooth and as fun of an experience because the game itself is going to feel inconsistent. Now, with that being said, do I think Valve could be doing more? Absolutely. I'm not going to sit here and pretend as though I wasn't a little bit upset to see that they made some more changes to the network and stuff, or even the Valve servers, because that is a core aspect of this update, right? The main way that you earn points for this pass is by playing officials on the Valve servers. So you can play Premier, you can play casual, you can play deathmatch and stuff like that. Anything that you can access here from Valve's game modes is something that you will be able to get points for. With that being said, have they made any fundamental changes to the matchmaking system that will improve it, like adding an anti-cheat, more carefully considered skill balancing, stuff like that? Not really. It's resulted in people just farming casual, and I have a little bit of that being pre-recorded over here, as you're going to be seeing playing over this as it goes on. But people are basically either rushing B tunnels on Dust 2 to take instant fights, get it to 7-7, and go into the next game, or they're just rushing it down mid. When the update first came out, people were just throwing grenades all the way down mid on Dust 2, fighting like that. And that was how you got the XP. They patched it out, and people are just finding more and more ways to get the points as fast as they can. Does this change anything for the Counter-Strike community? No, it just makes people who were playing Dust 2 and wanted to play casual Dust 2 get kicked a lot faster, which in my eyes is something that's really fucking stupid. But it's kind of a self-inflicted wound for Valve, because at the end of the day, if you got points properly distributed for playing things like Premier or playing something like competitive, and those game modes were actually valuable to play, i.e., if they were something that you would play normally, then there wouldn't be this issue. If I could, for example, let's say if Premier was actually good and viable and had a meaning to the ranking system with a solid anti-cheat, I would be playing Premier 24/7, and then I would love and have way less issues with buying the pass to be able to get the points if Premier was that good. Unfortunately, this leads me to my bad points. Valve doesn't seem to care about that side of the game too much right now. It seems like the development of that stuff is taking a lot longer than expected. I mean, we haven't gotten an anti-cheat update, we haven't gotten anything like that, and it feels like Smurfs and griefers and stuff like that are super duper prominent in Valve matchmaking. So I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. But what I would like to see is an integration for the Battle Pass points. And I'm going to keep calling it a Battle Pass, guys, because that's kind of what it is. You get points for stuff. It's not the traditional sense, but that's how I see it. But anyways, back to what I was saying. I see it as something that is problematic when their servers are so shit that people are only using them to farm, kicking people who want to play the game legitimately, and then the actual people who take the game seriously, i.e., the people who play on Faceit, third-party platforms that are known by Valve. For reference, it's not as though Faceit act completely independently of Valve. There is some level of interaction there, because Faceit is responsible for hosting a lot of the qualifiers and stuff for the majors. They've done it historically, and it's not as though the Faceit anti-cheat hasn't been used in some majors before, I believe. So there is some level of like familiarity within the two companies, and I would really like to see some agreement where if Faceit adhered to the competitive matchmaking rules that Valve wanted to set up, you would get points for the Armory Pass for playing on Faceit, regardless of if that's a level 5 lobby, level 10 lobby, stuff like that. I think you should have still been rewarded for stuff like that, and that kind of rejection of that side of the community is somewhat frustrating when it feels like the whole point of Counter-Strike 2 on some level has been to unify the community. You removed subtick and all its variations because you wanted to unify the community, make it one game where everyone is playing on that same baseline level, and that's great. But you've still made it to the point where the matchmaking system isn't good enough for the hardcore players. The casual players aren't having a fun experience because everyone's just running it down dust to mid or tunnels, and it's just a hodgepodge of really, really awkward and really weird feeling stuff. Surf still isn't fixed. None of the community servers give you XP if they're made by someone else, if it's like a community deathmatch server. Stuff like that is incredibly frustrating as a player who primarily doesn't deal with Valve and is probably one of the more dedicated players. I feel like I'm being punished for caring about the game a lot more than just on a surface level. So with that being said, what do I actually like about the update? I think that there is some cool stuff here, right? I know that a lot of people aren't the biggest fans of these little charms. I do think that they're kind of cool. I don't know if they're necessarily the coolest thing ever or if I love them with my whole heart and, want to spend thousands upon thousands of dollars for them. But I think that they're kind of cool. They're a small addition, beyond stickers and skins. Nothing crazy. I will say this, which is kind of an interesting perspective I don't think people have brought up yet. If I had to choose between agent skins and these guys, I would choose these all day solely because of the fact that they don't have any competitive influence on the game. Whereas agent skins, Valve have always mandated they have been allowed to be used, but they do have a competitive advantage in certain scenarios, especially with visibility on maps like Cash when it was still in the pool and Go, and Vertigo and stuff like that with the agent Ava, I believe her name is, where she's just completely invisible in certain angles or very hard to see. I'm not a big fan of the weapon charm variants. I think that they look a little silly on other guns and stuff like that. I'm not the biggest fan of these. Just on another gun feels a little bit silly to me. I'm not the biggest fan of that. But overall, I've just been mostly disappointed with the community sentiment that we've seen kind of around this update. Everyone's saying that it feels like a money grab. It feels like Valve don't care anymore. They're going to quit CS. And I get it, guys. The game is not in a great place. It's not the most responsive. It's not has the best frame rate. It doesn't have a lot of the quality of life features that we want it to have. But shitting on Valve as much as we do in a way that's not constructive, where you're only saying what's bad and you're not really saying anything about, well, I think this part would be good, or this was a good idea, but it would have worked better if XYZ, is something that is directly detrimental to Valve because you're just leaving them to guess what you want. So this is what they guess you want instead of, understanding that some of the products and stuff take time to be made. So stuff like updating the game for higher subtick or updating the game to have a better anti-cheat is going to take time. And I think that as long as Valve understand that those are the main things that we want and they can show us that those are the main things that we want and they understand that, it should be fine. But for now, out of 10, if I had to give this a score, I'm going to say it's a light 6 if I had to do it Anthony Fantano style. So that's kind of where I'm at with this update. I think it's cool. It adds a little extra something to do if I'm bored and just want to play the game and kind of want to turn off my brain and just, go in, get some points, maybe unbox some stuff. I think it's okay for that. If you're looking to, play the game or hope it, makes Premiere playable or anything like that, it's not going to do much for you. I'm going to be honest. It's just completely worthless in that regard. But I think it's a okay foundation to something different. So that's been my thoughts on this update. I hope you guys have enjoyed. Thank you guys for watching and have a good day, all right?